glowing lava, an adventurous tomb raider. This is the most fun I've had in a diorama for years, though it wasn't without its mishaps. So let's get straight on to how I built this glowing lava diorama from beginning to end. So what's in the diorama? Our plucky heroine arrives, she throws open the doors of the tomb, and she finds a series of stepping stones to a giant pyramid. She bravely crosses them and makes her way up the pyramid before reaching the golden idol. Sadly, an earthquake starts and she has to flee before she can pick the idol, which is honestly much bigger than her. The whole lot disappears, but I'm still left with the diorama. Every good diorama starts with a great plan, and this one's no different. I saw these STL files a year ago on My Mini Factory, and so when they approached me to collaborate, it was like, I know exactly which ones I want, and I want to do Tomb Raider, like this, or actually something a little bit more glowing and lava-y. So I created my 3D sketch. I put in place all the designs I had, and then I used other bits that came with them to create all of the grey areas. Quite a lot of work of stuff missing. Now these are only the files, so you do need to print them yourself, and I use my Peopoly Phenom. It's phenomenally large, which is alright until you forget to put enough resin in and you end up with problems like this. Oops, I had to reprint the top and then fit it on later. But before long, I had a pile of grey resin pieces waiting for me to start. Now if you do a lot of 3D printing, you'll know there's a lot of cleanup. Most of this was fairly simple. All my supports were in areas that were fairly flat and I could just sand them flush. I had the odd edge I needed to fill with a bit of putty. I use acrylic plastic putty, and then I use the same putty and a sponge to add stone texture to all the flat surfaces. Like many tasks in modelling, it wasn't quick, but I think it really improves the look. I test fit everything together and then had to print 3 missing gates. I want everything to glow. I'm going to light it in a minute. So I used transparent warbler. It's clear so the lights will show through and you can heat it with a heat gun and bend it to shape. Another test fit and it was on to the lights. Disco time. Perhaps something a little bit more sedate is needed. Thankfully they just have a steady on setting. But batteries aren't ideal. You have to change them. I'd have to get into my picture frame base. So instead I swapped it over to a USB cable, and bonus, it comes with a remote. Picture frames are my ideal bases. They also have clear perspex, which is perfect for glowing lava. So I put all my electronic gubbins inside. I marked where I wanted the wires to go, put a little bit of supporting for the pyramid, and I drilled. And then I shattered it, so I used a soldering iron instead and poked all my wires through where I needed them to come up into the cascading lava. I ended up with 100 LEDs, with half of them poking out and half of them underneath. There is a problem with LEDs though. They're very spotty. You end up with highlights whether you really want a continuous glowing lava. So I put in some diffusion material, which is just some packing from plates if you move house, and put the back on. Before we get on to painting, these are the pictures that inspired me. But first, I must say thank you to the collaborators, My Mini Factory. They sent me the STLs. Go check out their website. They have some amazing designs, some real scans of museum and artifacts, etc. So you could get your own Mayan statue, and loads of terrain, wargaming, whatever it is that floats your boat. They've probably got a 3D print for you. Next up is painting though, and my poor grass really suffered from me spray painting automotive primer all over every one of these. The key thing I needed to paint though was light. And on this pure black pyramid, you can see some sections are white, and that's because the light's hitting them there, and that's what I painted. So first up, white ink. This is a much better base for the brighter colours that are coming next. And I sprayed it from the direction the light was coming, top front. Now I got the light in, I sprayed the colour, in this case, brown. Followed by a quick coat of sealer. Plasticoat sent me these and I really like them because they're foam safe as well. I also wanted to paint in the glowing lava reflecting off all the stonework. So first up, white ink to give the orange something to light up, followed by orange. But this isn't any ordinary orange, this is fluorescent orange. I mixed it in with a bit of model colour just to give it some more staying power. On its own, the fluorescent orange is just a bit too translucent. To ensure this lava light only hits from the right angle, I sprayed everything from underneath just by holding it. And yep, I had a very orange hand at the end of this. I should have worn a glove. Then I glued it all together using hot glue, nice and quick and solid. The suns at the top are on gates, and these gates could theoretically shut down the lava, and the lava is going to spew out from halfway down each of these columns. Loads more hot glue, and finally everything was coming together. I arranged my LEDs for this flowing lava section, glued some diffusion material in place before putting the clear lava outside on. For better access, I left the pyramid off for a while, so I made it a little foam core landing pad for when I installed it later. So on to the fun bit. How do I make lava look like lava? Well, the answer turned out to be these clear gels. They're acrylic gels. They dry clear after a very, very long time, I suspect, because I plastered them on, and I used each of these 3 different types. One's got chunkier glass bits in, one's got small glass beads, and the final one's got absolutely nothing in, but still dries into waves if you use a brush to put it on. So I liberally plastered them everywhere, and I mean everywhere, and let them all dry. So time for a quick lighting test. Oh, yeah, I'm underwhelmed. I don't know about you. And everything's glued up now. I have to come back at the end and see if I can fix it. Well, my lava's not very lava-y yet, so it's time to paint it. First up, I painted yellow. Fluorescent colours are quite translucent and I needed a little bit more thickness of paint, so I added some normal model colour paint to them and did 2 coats of yellow. I followed that up with 2 coats of orange, mostly around the edges so the centre remained yellow. And then to get some nice colour density, 2 coats of a darker orange, followed by a very small amount of just plain red fluorescent paint. Nothing plain about it really. After that, I dry brushed. This means putting very, very little paint on your brush and just catching the tips and edges of everything, and I dry brushed them with a red-black colour. Finally, to get it into some of those nooks and crevices, I used a brush. One last dry brushing with some dark grey gave it a real lava rock look. It all looked a bit stark, but I needed to glue the pyramid in, so I did that and filled any gaps with texture gel. And when that was dry, I touched up the paint job. Whilst that was drying, I painted some stone colours on the front. They haven't had a lot of love, the front, and yet it's the first bit you see. Now I needed to nail that lava look, so I got my paints out and had another go on the floor. This time I mixed orange and brown together to get a sort of mid-tone. Lava's yellow when hot and black when cold, so in between it's kind of an orangey brown. So these areas didn't look boring. I edged every single one of them with a bright orange before dry brushing the crusty brown areas with something a little darker. I also caught all of the dark areas with reds and oranges to try and show the reflected light. Now I wanted my lava chamber to glow, so it was time to wheel out the big guns. Yep, bright orange fluorescent paint, and I put it anywhere where light might hit a surface. Then I put it all over the lava. This stuff glows. Finally, when everything was dry, I went and highlighted all of those cracks in the lava with the yellow so that they really pop. So why am I turning my brand new completed diorama upside down? Yeah, it's to fix the lighting. It turned out to be a lot simpler than I expected. I had another one of those LED light strips, so I took the back off, drilled another hole, wired it all up and installed it. Getting into the side should have been tricky, but I decided I'd put another outside around these, so I've lost my ability to photo through the holes, but who needs to photo through the holes? And instead, I now have an extra set, double the amount of LEDs in there. And it paid off because I'm now much happier. If you go from day to night, it makes a huge difference. So on to some final finishing touches. Slightly different colour to highlight the front, followed by a very liberal application of dilute, slimy grime light and slimy grime dark enamel washes. What great names. To hide all that delightful masking tape around the outside of my diorama, I sprayed a new glowing orange fluorescent box to go around the outside. Now every tomb needs a Tomb Raider, so I got a 3D print of Lara off the internet, downloaded it from Thingiverse, painted it up. I am not a miniature painter. This is certainly not the best paint job you will ever see on YouTube. But I did all the solid colours, then I went and added washes to try and put detail into the cracks. I didn't really highlight much apart from her bust. And when it was done, I tried to sort her face out. All I can say is, thank goodness you only ever see her from the back in this. And then I realised I'd made a major faux pas. I hadn't got anything for Lara to go and steal. So I went on, checked out some Mayan statues online, downloaded 3 free ones and printed them up. I painted them up with some all-clad lacquers and gave them a very, very liberal coat of fluorescent orange. And whilst I had the brush out, I doused a few of the worst-faced Laras with orange too, just for that reflected lava glow. And I was done. So I used black tack to stick all of the remaining bits into the diorama and called it finished. Well, I hope you enjoyed watching that as much as I did building it. It was great fun to do. I've learnt a lot, some new techniques, and I've found some new products. Win, win, win. So, if you enjoyed it, please subscribe, hit the bell button, and then you'll know when the next video is coming out. If you want to support more, then either pop over to Patreon or to the shop on my website where I've got some t-shirts and sweatshirts and other things going up all the time. On my website there is a painting guide to the lava, so if you want to see how I did it and you want to know which colours I used, that's over there. Otherwise, see you next time.